Everybody hand up. Say hurrah! Hurrah! Hand up. Okay, enough of that. Okay, so this morning I had a long out-of-body experience, OBE Vr Lucid Dream. And the funny thing is, several days ago, I was asking Joel to take me to a mansion, to give me a mansion scenario, because he hasn't taken me to a mansion in a while. So this morning he did, and I went back to my mansion that I bought on East Sunshine Street. And I've been back to that mansion many times under OBE Vr Lucid Dream. And but the scenario changes a bit each experience, but it was the same mansion. Okay, so on East Sunshine Street. Okay, so this experience was this morning, and okay, so I went back to my mansion on East Sunshine Street. I went back to my mansion that I owned, except this mansion at first was much, well, I mean, I owned it in all those other scenarios, or most all those other scenarios. Well, I went back to the mansion that I owned in previous scenarios, except this mansion at first was much smaller. It was the same mansion, but it's just when I was first placed in it, I thought, why is it so small? Well, it really wasn't that small. It's just Joel put me right in the big living room area in the middle of the mansion, and that's like all I could see at first. So at first I was thinking, why is it so small? Than all the other ones in previous scenarios. Being in the same mansion. But it really wasn't that small. It's just that I thought it was at first. Like, I immediately knew it was the same mansion that I've been to many times, and the one that I owned, in this alternate reality. Okay, so anyway, I knew instantly when I was placed in the scenario that this was the same one I had owned, etc., and had been to many times under, OBE altered states. I did ask Joel to give me a mansion scenario since it had been a while, and that was like 5 or 6 days ago. Okay, I kept waking up and going back into the scenario this morning at least 2 to 3 times. I kept waking up and going back in the scenario this morning. I kept waking up and going back to the scenario this morning, and I got up and I went tinkle, and was placed back in the same scenario when I, when I fell back to sleep. And I also had a feeling of anxiety pretty much this whole freaking time, while under this OBE scenario, while being in bed and everything. And that's not, the first experience where it's like exhausting and I have anxiety or something, and the whole thing or whatever, which I don't know why. I guess the aliens Joel could just make you feel that way if he wants to, and he felt like it. Okay, this experience, I swear, lasted many hours in 3D time. Like, I swear I was in 3D time, literally having this experience for like 5 or 6 hours. And then when I was in the scenario, it felt like it probably lasted the same. Like I was, or I don't know, maybe lasted a day. Like I don't know, you know what I'm saying? Could have lasted 5 to 6 days. 5 to 6 hours to a day and a half or whatever. But yeah, it's just weird. Because the last part of the scenario, that last scene, I'm not sure if that was just a few minutes later after me and Mom had went to the movies and came, what I'm saying? It came back or whatever. But anyway, okay, so this experience, I swear, it lasted many hours in 3D time, and pretty much the same amount of hours, while I was under the scenario in non-3D time. Like, I swear I dreamt for like 5 or 6 hours while having the scenario. And in the scenario, in non-3D time, I was probably in it at least 5 or more hours or, a day and a half or whatever. Normally I know that I dreamt for like 30 minutes or whatever, but in the scenario, sometimes I could feel like I was in it for hours and hours and hours. But this scenario was different. Okay, so at first when I was placed in the scenario, the mansion, it was smaller, and I noticed that all of a sudden, I noticed that it was smaller, all of a sudden, because I knew I had been there many, many times before under Altered State. And I started to go over to the left where I was placed at in the middle. I walked over to the left. I walked down a huge hallway to the left and walked along, and there were, I kid you not, 100 rooms or more on the left and right. It was massive and long. I was like, wow, this is huge. And I knew this was not my mansion any longer, but it was all of us girls' mansions. We all bought it together. All of us call girls. We all bought it together. But, previous mansions, I literally owned it. And I forgot about the other scenarios, but I've been in this mansion many, many, many times. And most of the time, it was like a mansion, that was actually mine and that I bought it in most of the scenarios. But anyway, I knew that this was not my mansion any longer, just not long after I was placed in the mansion. But it was all of us girls' mansion. Like, we all bought it together. And we all owned it under the scenario. Joel didn't tell us how much we paid for it or anything. Well, he did that one time, in that one scenario, because I think I paid like $4,000 for it or something like that. But anyway, we were like all a bunch of call girls, hookers basically. There were like me and 10 or 15 other girls. I did many things or look at many things as I walked around the mansion talking to this girl or that girl, and had many conversations with them. That lasted a long, 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 long time. I did many things or look at many things as I walked around the mansion, and like I say, that lasted a long, long, long time. At one point, I'm waiting for Simba to come back. At one point, I went outside with the girl, and it was dusk. All these girls, they were probably like, I don't know, like 28 to 40 or whatever. At one point, I went outside with the girl, and it was dusk to the back of the mansion. And I noticed as I looked up, it looked like a very small apartment building. That was the outside of the mansion. I was standing there outside of the mansion with that one female. The windows were blackish and weird and old looking. And like I wish I could like draw a picture. These windows were weird. Like, I don't know, like the frames were like metal or something. Instead of wood, it was really weird. Like I've never seen frames like that in my life, But the aliens, man, they can create cool stuff. So at one point I went outside with the girl at dusk, and I was at the back of the mansion, and I was just looking at it, and I'm like, this looks like a very small apartment building. Like one little building, one small apartment building. Yeah, and that was the outside of the mansion. The windows were blackish and weird and old looking. And the windows, I looked up at the windows, and that was towards the top of the roof. That was towards the top. When I looked up, it was, right there near the roof. Those windows that I was looking at. Here's the weird part. I was like, wow, no way that mansion with those huge long halls would fit inside this small looking apartment building. Why Joel created the scenario like that, I don't know. But I knew the size did not match up. Because I was just in this huge mansion, and then I went outside, and then I looked at, I was just, it looked like a small little apartment building with small little windows. And like I say, there were many windows. But anyway, that part was weird. I was with one of the girls, and yeah, that girl that I told you about. I was standing there, and I was with one of the girls, and there was a tree right there by us, basically in the middle where I was standing, right in the middle area. There was grass and dirt and everything. And then, like I say, the little building was just right there, and that's when I looked up and looked at the windows and everything. But there was a tree right there in the middle, of the little building right there that I was looking at. which was the mansion. I was with one of the girls and there was a tree right there by us as I looked at the small windows, and I looked down and there was a strange, well, first of all, I couldn't tell what the hell it was. It was a strange looking little animal. And then I realized it kind of looked like a rabbit. It looked more like a rabbit eventually. Like when I was looking at it, I couldn't tell what the hell it was, and then it kind of looked like a rabbit. And I was stunned by that. Then all of a sudden there was a big rat to the right of it. A very cute rat running along beside it to the right. And I just wanted to pet them, so I leaned down and petted them while they ran along. And the rat and stuff was in a movie and stuff that I just watched and everything. And the hookers too was this movie I was watching. Okay, so this person was like a call girl or something like that in this movie that I was watching. So the aliens, or Joel or whatever, put all that together and gave me a scenario. Then eventually we made our way back inside the mansion in the living room area, and I started to walk over there where the front door was, and that was the exact same front door that was in all my other scenarios, the exact same placement and everything. So it's very familiar to me. And so I started to walk over there where the front door was and where it had been exactly in all the other scenarios in this mansion I was in with this same mansion. All of a sudden, I felt afraid and very unsafe during this time. Like for many minutes. And like I said before, I felt I had anxiety for much of this experience while I was in the experience. The reason why I felt unsafe is because I noticed a big picture window with dark oldish wood trim around it. Looked like it had been broken into. It was just hanging open, flopping open. And I knew, and it was like dark time at this point. It was dark time. I knew that intruders could easily break into the mansion with ease. I told the other girls about it. And like I say, it was kind of creepy. You know what I'm saying? This part of the scenario, I was kind of like creeped out. Okay, so this scenario was very, very long, and I know I'm gonna forget some small details, but I remember 3 more significant scenes. So eventually, elite men started to show up, and some looked very familiar. I know one of the guys that was from the Squid Game. He was in it. The aliens copied off of that, because I watched the Squid Game like a couple months ago or whatever. So the aliens put that one guy in it, and so he was very familiar. I knew exactly who he was. And like I say, and there were at least 10 or more men sitting around on couches in the living area, which was basically in the middle of the mansion. It was a very open area, and that's where Joel at first basically placed me when the scenario started, right there in the middle, open area, living room area. I knew they were there to like call upon us if they wanted to, because we were like hookers, I knew they were there to call upon us if they wanted to. Then I saw tons of tables and the women standing around eating, and there was tons of food on the tables. Basically, we were having a buffet. Then I noticed a box of Whitman's chocolates in a box to the right on the buffet table, and I opened it. Then all of a sudden, it looked like Russell Stover's dark chocolates. I was scared to eat anything because my celiac disease, but there were like 7 pieces of chocolates left, and most of the pieces were small, and I started eating them, and I could taste them and everything. They tasted really good. I knew that they were produced in a facility with wheat, yet I was happy that I was not reacting, and I ate the rest of the 7 pieces, and I never did react. I hope I can still eat chocolate. I'm not sure if I can or not. I'm not sure if I became allergic to chocolate or not, but I wasn't as of, like a year and a half ago, or almost 2 years ago. I wasn't. I just haven't eaten it in like 2 years. But I hope I haven't became allergic to chocolate, but I can't just eat any chocolate, you know what I'm saying? I have to get like the gluten-free and shit. And if I make like my chocolate milk again, or hot cocoa, I'll have to test it with some technology to make sure it doesn't have too much gluten in it. But in the scenario, I was eating the dark chocolate pieces, and it was awesome. And Joel copied that from my brain, because when I used to eat shitloads of boxes of Russell Stover chocolates, I used to eat like the ones that I didn't like last, and a lot of those were like the smaller pieces. You know what I'm saying? So he's funny. That's why he put that in there, like in the scenario like that. But anyway, I was eating the chocolate, the dark chocolate, and I like the dark chocolate better than the milk chocolate. I just don't like that real nasty shit, you know, from straight up from Africa and shit. That shit that tastes so freaking bitter. It tastes so much like pure caffeine. I can't stand that shit. But chocolate is like coffee. I mean, if it's not exactly right, it tastes like ass, and most of the time coffee tastes like ass, which I'm totally allergic to that. But if, you know, in England, if you make it fresh, the espresso, and put it in the chocolate, oh my god, so good. But, so then, after eating the chocolate, I was going to say something else. What else was I going to say? Well, I don't know. Okay, I was going to say something about the chocolate. Oh, well, you know, like years ago, like having highly good senses is like a godsend, because I'm still going to have highly good sense of smell, even when my multiple chemical sensitivity goes away, and it's almost gone away. I mean, it hasn't 100% yet, but it's like 90-something%. And I have been doing some neuroplasticity stuff in my own way, not from what that stupid CD says, or my DVDs, what they say, but, you know, I've been saying, you know, kind of doing it my own way, and I think it has been working. Because I remember even before I bought the DVDs, like I would start to get like dizzy, and I would like literally tell myself, you're not dizzy, or stop, and it would freaking stop. I mean, yeah, so it's kind of amazing. But it's, you know, the multiple chemical sensitivity, if you have it bad, you know, it's a little more complicated than that. You're going to have to work at it a little more than that. Because, you know, but anyway, yeah, I mean, it works. But, you know, when I used to eat Russell Stovers long time ago, prior to 2013, I don't remember tasting any chemicals at all in Russell Stovers. Well, the last time I ate Russell Stovers chocolates was around 2013 or 2014. May have even been 2015, and I could taste the freaking chemicals. And it's like, what the fuck? So I never did buy it again after that. I gave as far as I remember, I maybe ate one piece. I gave the rest to, because my boss was, the big boss was in town at the office, so I just gave them to the employees. But see, most people, they're dumbed down, and they cannot taste or smell chemicals at all. That's why I couldn't even eat processed foods even if I wanted to, because I taste all the chemicals in it. Okay, so then I walked down the hall to the right of the buffet, and after I ate the chocolates right there, you know, by the men and the women, we were having a buffet. Then after that, I walked down the hall to the right of the buffet, and I went to the large bathroom to the right, and my mom appeared during this time. My mom was with me. She was there to pick me up, and we were going to go to the movies. She knew I wanted out of there so I wouldn't get picked by one of the men. Then another older woman walked in and started talking to me, and I was like, I can't remember the exact conversation, but we did have, she said something specific, and I said something specific. I think she said, like, are you leaving? Why are you leaving? Or something like that. And so anyway, another older woman walked in, and started talking to me, and I was like, oh, I'm just putting on makeup, and my mom and I are going to leave this mansion and go to the movies. Okay, so then I woke up and went pee-pee. Then the last scene occurred. But there was a couple other times too. I woke up and I fell back to sleep and went back to the same scenario for over 5 or 6 hours all night long. Okay, so then I woke up to go pee-pee. Then the last scene occurred. I was back in the mansion, so apparently this was all after the movies and everything. I was back in the mansion, sitting at a table in a different area of the mansion, and my doctor, this doctor I went to in real life, was talking to another male friend across from him at a table. I was afraid he was overhearing me because I said his name many times, and I didn't really want to point him out. But I was telling one of my female friends, and we were sitting there too. I can't remember if I was sitting or standing, but I was sitting there or standing talking to the other woman, or to one of my female friends. And I was telling my female friend that he was giving me a medical exemption, etc., and that he was a cool doctor, etc. I said his name several times, and I was hoping he did not overhear me, because I didn't want to like single him out as, you know, saying that he's given medical exemptions and blah 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 blah, because I didn't want the government after him. And but anyway, so after that, thank God this anxiety-ridden experience was over. But it was still fun though. But he oh yeah, he even said he said people are croaking. It came from his own mouth. He said people are croaking at the 6-month mark, because I kept hearing all these experts, once you get the vaccine, you either die at the 6-month mark or 3 to 5 years. 3 to 5 years, that's yet to be seen. But because he's an emergency room doctor as well as a holistic doctor, and he's, you know, on my side, that's why he gave me medical exemption, because he's enlightened. And but like I say, that other part I talked about, that was under the scenario, the sitting at the table, that was all under the scenario, under the altered dream state. And yeah, in real life, he's also an emergency room doctor, and he said that's why he's seeing people are dying at the 6-month mark. He said it from his own mouth. And okay, but anyway, okay, so this other scenario I had yesterday morning was kind of cool and funny. I was basically sitting there at my mom's house, but you know, I mean, like, I used to live there in real life, and okay, it's like I was in England. I was in England, but this was so weird. I was in England, but I was sitting there at my mom's house, right there near my bedroom, and like sitting at some tables, and there were about 6 or 7, I don't know, maybe not, maybe 8 or 9 people with us, because we were about to go on a crop circle tour. And there was at least, I don't know, 4 other guys, 3 other women, and we were all sitting there. And like I say, but it was like I was sitting there in front of my old bedroom in my own town, you know, at my mom's house, you know, where I used to live, but we were in England. It was so weird. And so, and we were eating breakfast, and I looked over to the left, and there was an older man, and I honed in on his features and everything. He looked very familiar, but he looked really, really unfriendly, and I was thinking in my head, he's going to be hard to get along with, you know, during the tour or whatever. And, you know, the alien copy from my brain, you know, Joel, because, you know, when I went to England, there was a couple people that was hard to get along with, but they were women, you know, in real life. And, but yeah, I honed in on his features and everything. He looked very familiar, but I can't think who he is now. And he was going to go on the crop circle tour with us, but he was passing around like biscuits, and they were kind of gummy and doughy. And he was passing around biscuits, and I held the little plate of biscuits, and I was like, I'm allergic to this. I can't eat this. And ew, but I was like so repulsed. Even after I woke up, like I was repulsed, you know, by those biscuits. And I used to love gummy shit, but, you know, well, now I'm allergic to all that shit, man. But my body's happy the way I'm eating now. And, yeah, even after I woke up, I was just like, ugh. Like, it looked like Bisquick. Actually, my mom always made Bisquick pancakes and Bisquick biscuits, and I was so sick of eating Bisquick all the time. You know, like when I was younger, and these biscuits, they appeared to be doughy, gummy Bisquick biscuits that my mom used to make. And but like I was repulsed in the scenario just looking at them, and they were kind of doughy and gummy, and then after I woke up, I was like repulsed for like several hours. But, you know, in real life, I used to love just regular doughy, gummy rolls as I got older. But when I was young, no, when I was 4 or 5 years old, my grandma tried to give me them, and I would hide them on the floor or put them in my pockets. See, that was telling me something right fucking there, because I was only 4 or 5 years old. That was telling me something, that you should not like this fucking wheat, grains, flour, etc., etc. And of course, as I got older, you know, I started eating all that and loved it. Doughy, gummy shit. But the funny thing is, okay, so so we were sitting there and we were getting ready to go on a crop circle tour. And I was like they all were like disorganized and so I told a lot of the women were sitting to my right, 3 or 4 women, and like I said, that one guy was sitting to my left at the table. We were eating like breakfast in the laundry room, basically, and my bedroom was back behind. But we were in England. And I was like telling one of the women that was there, I was like, well, don't we need to be going and hurrying up? Don't we need to go and go get a bed and breakfast? But they all were just like disorganized and sitting on their ass, and I was just like when are we gonna leave? And we're gonna need to go get a bed and breakfast and stuff. A bed and breakfast. That's what I used to stay in real life when I went to England. And the other funny part was too, I was like, do you realize that it's September 18th? And in the scenario, it was November. In the scenario, it was September 18th. I think the alien, I don't know if he meant to put the exact date, like Joel, he probably gave it to me. I don't know if he meant to put the exact date of November 18th. But it was, but he was right about the day, because I had this experience on the 18th, which was yesterday morning. Except in the scenario, it was September 18th. And I was like, do you realize it's September 18th? And normally the crop circles are done being laid down, by August 31st. And, so I was like telling her that we're probably not going to be able to see any crop circles anyway. But it was just a funny scenario, and I was just like perturbed because like I knew we needed to go find a bed and breakfast and also a van, and then I was telling her, it's September 18th. Normally the aliens don't lay crop circles down in September. They lay them down by August 31st. But anyway, it was a fun experience. But thanks for listening.